Hi, everybody. So, I've been researching the town I was raised in, Benicia, California, and it's basically the first capital of California. The capital moved pretty quickly the first two times and then was in Benicia for a full year. Um, and it was the main first capital of California. Um, and it was the town I was raised in. It is essential to the beginning of the gold rush. Um, Charles Bennett was buried in Salem, Oregon, and he was the first person who disclosed the discovery of gold at Sutter's Mill when he came to Benicia in 1848. He later went to Oregon and was killed in Indian fighting. Benicia was known for its whorehouses and was a perfect hub because it was pretty much immediately in between San Francisco and Sacramento. In my research, I found this publication advertising Benicia from 1848. Benicia also served as an arsenal for the Civil War and later for World War II. There's different historical buildings still in Benicia, like the Camel Barn and the Arsenal. There's like the Majestic Theater. There's still the old Capitol building. It's a very interesting city, yet it still remains quite small. There's only one middle school and one high school, which I both went to. And my graduating class in high school was like 450 students. Okay, so this is the publication that I'm going to read to you. You were always welcome at the Bell Union Saloon. Maria Montague, who ran the place in the long years back, saw to that. That is, if your poke sack was filled or your pockets jingled. She saw to it, too, old-timers will tell you, that you had a good time. Girls, music, and drinks were yours, if you had the money. Many are the stories that come from the old saloon, and few, if any, are alive today, can confirm or deny these stories. Perhaps this is the reason that today the stories are alive with the romance of the past. Stories such as the one about the miner who worked for years in the hills out east, way, and came out to town loaded with gold dust. He got drunk and spread his money around. Then one of the girls whose job it was to take the money in for the house took a liking to the miner. She resented the others trying to take his money, and finally both of them found themselves on the street. Well, sir, the old-timers will tell you, that was just something that didn't happen around these parts in those days. One of the girls taking a liking to a customer and getting fired. But it seems that the miner was plenty drunk, and so the girl up and takes him home and puts him to bed. Well, sir, the next day, mind you, the two of them appears at the judge's office and says, "We're going to get married and we think this is the right place." And they did get married right there and then. And dadgun me if they didn't live together until both died and 10 or 15 years back. Raised a right smart family too. Nope, they didn't stay in Benicia, moved away far from here that very night. And no one heard tell of them until a drummer came through here about 15 years later and told them about seeing them up north. Then there's a story about the old miner who drank every night for a week in the saloon. Drank all by himself and didn't bother a soul, the old-timer told us. But the funny part of it was that he didn't seem to have any money, and each night he spent about $1 and then went home. He had rented an old shack on the wharf, one of the old arks they called them in those days. The place was about as poor a place as Benicia had, but the old fella didn't seem to mind. He would walk around town about during the day and seem to be lost. Some said as how he was feeble-minded and had come here by mistake. Some said he had a bad love affair and others didn't pay him any attention. Then one night, while he's a-drinking at one of the tables, he sort of slides over free from the table and pulling a rod pistol. I mean, from a hidden place under his coat, he just up and points it at one of the boys near him at the bar and says, "You're coming with me, son, and you're under arrest. I'm a federal detective, see?" And he pulls back his coat, and sure enough, under the lapel is a gold badge. "What you taking him in for, Pop?" we asked the old man. And he says, "For murdering his pal up the coast." Then he sort of drops his voice and says in the youngest voice I ever heard, "I ain't Pop, I just took like this with this disguise." And the next day he got old Charlie to shave him and give him a haircut, and by gosh, he was about 25 years old. Then there is the story told by one of the oldsters about the man who came roaring into the saloon and yelled, "I'm a-going to shoot someone, just anyone." So everyone gets sort of panicky-like and starts reaching for their guns with this fellow ups and throws a pair of dice on the bar and says, "Okay, who wants to fade me?" Well, says the old-timer, some of the boys had itchy trigger fingers about that time and they sort of felt foolish, too. So some of them moved over and invited the wise guy out into the night air for a little walk. That's the last they ever saw of him around these parts. Might be a walking yet as far as we know. No one ever said just what became of him, but likely enough he had plenty of Benicia. There are tales of the soldiers from the arsenal who, along about the middle of the month, used to try and get on the cuff with Maria. Some did, they say, but payday at the arsenal was the day they had better visit her place because she had a way of taking care of that sort of lapse of memory, the old-timers will tell you. Yes, the Bell Union was some place in those days, if you're to believe the old-timers, and who is there to doubt them, and why? I thought that was interesting. Bye, guys.